Good morning, guys, and welcome back to Dusting Off Warlord Saga of the Storm. Featuring Sigurdur, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. A dwarf fighter that came out in 4th edition. He came out in, what is this? I think it's Shattered Empires. Okay, so if you've been following my channel for any length of time, you know that I don't play this game competitively at all. Like, I just play to enjoy the game with my friends. I'm usually not sober when I'm playing, and so I don't really approach the game as what can I play that's good. I'm more interested in what can I play that I enjoy. And sometimes that includes some bad warlords. And good lord, do we have a bad warlord on our hands here? I don't know why this guy. I think he's terrible. I think he's awful, and I love playing him. I don't know why. I almost never win with him. Um, but it's so much fun. It's so okay. So we'll get into that. Real quick, we will just go over his stat block for a second. So Sigurdur is a 5th level dwarf fighter. His attack is +6/+1 as a fighter, which this his attack set doesn't really matter, but it's like we're gonna get into AC 16. I think that's average or slightly above average for fighter. +7 skill, 4 hit points. Again, 4th edition fighters finally started getting that 4th hit point to give him a little bit of help. He has an order. Twice per turn, equip a card from your hand face down to a dwarf you control as War Axe, a level 2 classless item with +3 attack, the weapon trait, and the ability Spend Order. Perform a melee strike that inflicts an additional wound. This guy is a fucking train. Sorry, I try not to swear too much. This guy is a train wreck, okay? So, again, looking at his stat block, his stats shouldn't really matter because using his order, this guy is going to hand out axes. That's all he does for most of the game. His attack stat is, again, not very good. His order, his order sucks on so many levels. One, you have to spend an order to equip the item. That's probably a no-brainer, but just think about it like this, okay? I'm like, I want the War Axe on one of my guys who's, he's ready in rank 1, and I discard a card and I equip the War Axe. One, I have to discard a card. That's sure. But then the action goes over to my opponent, and they go, okay, I spend and I kill the guy who just got the axe. And I'm like, well, yeah. Yeah. Two, the Axe's stats are really nothing impressive. Making it level 2 classless, I think that's just to make sure that literally anybody can equip it as long as they're allowed to equip items. +3 attack, The spend order for the additional wound, that's really why you're playing this guy, but it's like, the tempo is awful. The cost is awful. His stats are awful. His stats aren't good. And all he does is hand out these axes to your dwarves. And if your dwarves are those dwarves that have multiple strikes, they can't even really use the spend order to any real value. And so, but it's so much fun. So, really, this guy, I played him a little bit in 4th edition. And again, I didn't really do well with him at all, at all. But once I brought him into Ancients, really, the only reason why I think and not that he works, in my opinion, but the only reason why I even ever consider playing him is there's a card in Ancients that interacts with him in kind of an interesting way, and that card is Treason's Wages. I have never seen another human play this. I like this card. It's probably crappy. You're going to see a theme. This is like just this deck is terrible, and I have so much fun playing it. Treason's Wages is a level 2 cleric spell that says spend order until the end of the turn. Your characters have +2 attack and inflict an additional wound with melee strikes while they have a weapon equipped. So Sigurdur, again, all he does is hand out axes. These axes, you can spend the guy who has it to make a melee strike that does additional wound. And Treason's Wages also gives you an additional wound. So right off the bat, if you give somebody an axe and Treason's Wages is going off, you're doing a melee strike that inflicts 3 wounds, which that kills a lot of things. Yeah. Again, I'm gonna try not to keep going over this. I'm not saying this deck is good. I'm just saying I enjoy it. This is basically what the deck is built around. It's built around giving War Axes to people, having them spend while Treason's Wages is in play. your characters can, again, they can one-shot a lot of things in the game with this. A lot of warlords will die. Not that their warlords should be running around towards the front when you've got these angry dwarves with war axes, but I mean, you know, a lot of level 5s, a lot of level 4s, a lot of characters, just one spend order will kill them if you're able to connect with it. So I do have two different versions of this deck. One of them, the one that I'm going to show right here, the first one, is the one I by far have the most experience with because I think it's more fun. And the idea behind this deck is basically level 1 dwarves, because most level 1 dwarves, actually maybe all level 1 dwarves, only have one melee strike, and so they're not missing out on any extra attacks by using the War Axe's spend order. But two dwarves have this lovely character named Him. I am a huge fan of Him. Spend React. After one of your level 1 dwarves is targeted with a melee strike, all of your level 1 dwarves gain +2 attack and armor class until the end of the turn. So, really, right off the bat, like, if you're just looking at how some of these bonuses interact, the Axe is giving you +3, Treason's Wages is giving you +2. Even if only one Him is going off, that's, what is that, +7? A +7 along with their base strike for 3 wounds. Like, the bonus is fairly good. It's not amazing, and you're still going to struggle with some things, but that's really the idea behind this deck. It also it incorporates some things that I think are kind of interesting in terms of the fact that Sigurdur doesn't really do anything except hand these axes out, and he doesn't spend to do it. With how bad he is, I'm kind of surprised they didn't make his ability a spend order that he has to do too. Like, how else can we screw this guy over? Like, let's make his ability a spend order while we're at it. Like, I don't know what was going on in their heads when they designed this guy. Like, I really don't. Like, 4th edition had Yavlo the Kindled with Incinerate, and it had Niobe with Aegis, and it had Sigurdur. Like, so yeah. So as far as this deck goes, again, starting Sigurdur, 2 hymns, triple profit, and I've mentioned them in my faction overview. Really, really great stat block. 12 attack, or 12 AC +2 attack, and they've got stealth. So under the effects of 1 or 2 hymns, fairly solid. So run those as starters. As far as the other characters go, I do have a 3rd Him in the deck. One, because, again, practically all the characters are level 1, and the ability is pretty nice. You also need Clerics to cast Treason's Wages, because Sigurdur can't do it himself. So you can run several different options here. Obviously, you can run Torin Yasar, Cleric, with the ability to kind of grab what you need. So kind of a staple. You can run Mentor as well. After a dwarf equips an item, ready the target. I don't think this is terrible. I think this is definitely usable, and I have gotten some value out of it. The other option, and this is, again, you have Salvage, okay? So Salvage came out in the exact same set as Sigurdur. 3rd level Cleric. Once per turn, after target dwarf is killed, return an armor, shield, or weapon equipped to the target to his owner's hand. This really should have been an ability printed on Sigurdur. Like, and it's like, it doesn't even get you all the items. It just gets you one. Sigurdur. But he doesn't spend to do that. You can do it once per turn, and that can kind of help mitigate the fact that you're tossing cards to Sigurdur's ability. And again, he can cast Treason's Wages as well. So any combination of those 3 characters, or 1 Tauren, 2 Salvage, if you don't like Mentor. The 4th rank for Mentor isn't really a big deal, because, again, if Sigurdur's falling to the front, you're probably done. So, as far as the meat and potatoes of the deck, so you have Valdemar, who came out in, again, a lot of these cards, you may notice a theme, a lot of these cards I think were in his deck. Once per turn, after an adjacent dwarf equips an item, ready Valdemar. So you can have him punch, and then you can give a War Axe to the guy next to him, which would ready him. You also have Endure. Once per turn, after an action which readied an adjacent dwarf, ready Endure. So again, potentially, you can be making quite a few... A single character might make, 2 or 3 War Axe strikes in a single turn, which is kind of nice. A lot of the where was I going with this? I had a thought and I'm missing it. Okay, I don't know what I was talking about. But you also have Darkness. So Darkness has the crappy 10 AC, but +3 attack, which is nice. Is a rogue, but again, that doesn't matter because the War Axe is classless. After Darkness kills a higher level character with a melee strike, draw a card. Again, helping you because you're probably losing 2 cards a turn throwing axes out. You also have Linnea Warsong, who, again, she's nice because a lot of times, like what I said in the beginning, if you give a dwarf an axe, that's your action. And a lot of times, unless you want to run Johann Halfblood, which I do not want to do, their action might be, I mean, because these are all level ones, their action might be I spend something and it dies, and now I'm down the character and the war axe. War Song gives you that little extra buffer hit point, which is kind of nice. So hopefully the next time you equip an axe, they stick around. So I like that. I also run Watcher because I freaking hate planar. Like, it's like the worst thing ever when you have, like, you know, say everything's going great. You know, Darkness she's got an axe. You've triple himmed. You've got, you know, Treason's wages up. She's getting ready to freaking end all the world. But you have to roll an even number. And it's, so yeah, having Watcher there, being able to ignore that's pretty nice. I love that. As far as other stuff, so again, 2 more copies of Treason's wages. I think you can, well, not potentially, because this Warlord has no potential in my opinion. I just have fun playing him. But you can drop the Treason's wages and kind of change your character setup a bit and not have to worry about drawing clerics. The thing that's nice about, you know, I think is, how many is that? I think that's 6 clerics I'm running. If you draw the Treason's wages and you don't draw a cleric, it just becomes a war axe. And if you don't want to hold on to it, that's fine. So you can kind of switch that up a bit. The other thing that's nice too is that because Sigurdur doesn't spend to use his ability, and because he's probably not doing much, you don't need to move him anywhere or anything like that. You can run Crunch strategies, and this plays into the level 1 theme of this deck. So Crunch strategies, spend order, target a number of your spent, not stunned characters whose combined levels are less than or equal to this fighter's level. Ready the target characters. He can't really move back. Like, I can't really imagine. I guess if he has an Axon and Treason's wages is live, he can move backward. You're not going to do that. Again, readying 5 level 1 characters that have axes, and it might not even just be 5, because if you have an Endure next to one of the characters you're readying, Endure readies too. So you can get a lot of value out of that. I really like this kind of idea of readying weenie decks like this, these Swarm guys. Again, probably, actually, I can guarantee you, not as good as Adarami, but I mean, the fact that you can potentially get quite a few swings out of these guys. I think the last time I played this deck, it literally was, both of us were spent out except for Sigurdur, and I had 1 card in my hand, and my opponent goes, "Are we done?" And I'm like, "Oh no." And so I played Crunch strategies, and I don't think I actually got 5. I think I only got 4 characters because all the other ones were dead. But it was nice. It was nice to be able to do that. So it's so nice that, again, I run 3 copies of Once Again, basically just to keep using Crunch strategies. And again, if you don't draw it, just turn it into a War Axe. That is... low-key, that's kind of an interesting thing that he does. If you draw into things, if you're trying to set something up and it's just not going to happen, the cards aren't dead because you just convert them into war axes. So 3 meet at the inn and 3 back alley tavern just for some draw. Because again, you really want both Treason's wages and Crunch strategies if you can get them. 3 copies of Invasion. So this is something that, again, you can turn this into an axe, but when it goes to your discard pile, you can still use it, which is kind of nice. 3 copies of Thwarted. Now, again, I hate Exhaustion with a fiery passion. It's a stupid card, and Thwarted, I think, is fair game because I'm not spending a Brine Fiend to spend your Warlord. If I want to do something to your Warlord, I usually have to spend mine. And so, Thwarted is fair game in my little play group. Some counter cards that I do run, too. I've switched between these two, either Twist of Fate or False Hope. False Hope, I found, generally speaking, this is what I started with. This card, generally speaking, in my experience, when you play this card, its effects are usually more devastating than Twist of Fates, but the trigger is much less common. Really, they have to have some kind of graveyard or discard pile recursion of some sort for False Hope to really do anything. Most of the time, though, like if you get rid of like a Nardanelis and it's the only one they've got, this can be brutal if that happens and they can't get another one. But if they're not running that, it's a dead card. Again, it can become a War Axe, but Twist of Fate is, I think, what I'm running now. And this kind of... not maybe not always, but a lot of times you have something you can play this on. Torrens everywhere, and so yeah, usually not as good of an effect, but it can be very, very solid. And then the last thing, rounding it out, just 1 copy of Kor's Banner. Throw this on Sigurdur. He needs, what is that? I think he needs a 12 to succeed on his, or no, he needs an 8, I think, to succeed on his charisma check. Just a little bit of baby healing. Again, it's really, really tragic when you equip a War Axe and you're hopeful and then something stupid happens. They play a Rest or something like that, and then, yeah, you're sad. A card also that I think is probably worth mentioning. I don't play this now, and I don't think I've ever actually tried playing this in his deck. And that card is Rally. So, Rally, you draw 5 cards, you put any level 1 characters in your hand, your new big hand, into play, and you toss all your remaining cards. Because this deck is built around level 1s, in theory, you might get this might be a really, really big card swing in your favor, especially if you've already equipped 2 War Axes. The main issue that I have with this is, again, it's a spend order, and I am having a hard time imagining this giving me as much value as Krun's strategies. And between, I mean, I guess I could drop the thwarteds for this. Maybe I'll try that next time I play him. But I just haven't done this yet because, again, when you play Rally, you have to toss any other cards that are still in your hand after you've played all your characters, and that means no War Axes. So again, the tempo and the timing in Sigurdur, it's all over the place. It's not good. I don't think he's good, but it's, again, oh, it's a lot of fun. So that's the low level build that I've had with him. Again, it's something else when you're watching, like a level 1 dwarf kill a dragon, like 2 of them gang up and just kill a dragon. It's hilarious when it happens. But yeah, so after that we will be moving on to the other version. And this other version, for the record, I have far less experience playing this version than the one I just listed. Mostly because I was really excited about it. I hunted down all the cards to it. Some of them, it's not that they were hard to get, it's that, well, they were kind of hard to get. But when I played it, it was kind of boring. I think, from a technical perspective, I think this is a better deck. It's just, you're playing, at least when I'm playing Sigurdur, it's I just want to enjoy myself, and I mean that goes for Warlord in general. And this felt almost tedious to play it. It almost felt like a chore. So, but I'll go over it real quick because, again, I think this is better, and at some point I should probably grow up and actually try to take this seriously and play this and figure out if this is actually better or not. So again, starting Sigurdur with triple profits, but because this deck does not focus on level 1 characters, it doesn't start hymns. Instead, we're starting walls. 2 copies of wall to give characters +5 armor class. They can use this on the profits again if they have to, but they can also use it on the other characters you're bringing into play. And that's important because these characters generally do a lot more than the level 1s in the previous build. So we've got 3 copies of Halvardur. So this guy came with Sigurdur and is pretty much made to be used with him. His stats are okay. React once per turn. After Halvardur equips a weapon, ready him. So he's got some ready tech. Again, that's a dwarf thing. And then he has the order, destroy a level X, an equipped level X weapon, perform an X melee strike. The really sad thing about this is the War Axes are only level 2. So you're destroying this to make a +2 strike, which that's not very good. And the fact he's level 3, I know I shouldn't be expecting this outrageous level of destruction from level 3 dwarf characters, but it feels really meh. And I mean, it plays into his other ability. You start the turn with the War Axe, you spend it to make a +8 strike, you break it to make a +2 strike, you equip a new axe from Sigurdur, and then you ready him. I mean, it's not that that's bad, because that's pretty destructive, but it's so many actions to do it. Then we have Kuros. This guy came out, I believe this guy came out of Champions, if memory serves. So again, level 3 fighter. He's got slightly better armor class. He has 2 abilities also. Once per turn, after he suffers a wound, discard an equipped item, reduce the wound suffered to 0. So he can basically, his War Axes are also improvised shields, which is kind of cool. And then he has the other ability, once per turn, after he equips an item, he performs an order. This is the important part, is you don't have to wait after giving him the axe to have him punch, which, again, that was one of the big problems I had with Sigurdur's tempo. This deck does fix that in several other ways, but yeah, this guy, I think he works. It's just, again, eh. But moving on to level 4s, so we've got 4 copies of Stone Fist, and I suspect, this is just my opinion, I probably don't know what I'm talking about, but I think this is why they made Sigurdur the way they did, because they were afraid of what Stone Fist could do in a deck like Sigurdur. Stone Fist already does an additional wound when he hits with melee strikes. He also has power attack +5. Now, he needs an 11 to get that, but that's about half the time. So if with the War Axe on, this guy is doing it, what is that, a +12 for 3 wounds, 4 if he makes a power attack check. That kills a lot of stuff. Not much survives that. So, Yeah, very, very basic. We also have Grit. So Grit's got a +8. He's got 15 armor class. Very simple order. Once per turn, ready him. Now you can use this for two things. One, obviously you can use this to make extra strikes. You know, give him a war axe, spend him for a +11, ready him, and do it again. But this also makes him probably the fastest dwarf in the deck because he can move, ready, and then move again. And dwarves they don't move very quickly on those short little legs of theirs. So Grit getting to the front faster. Yeah, is nice. Now this deck does have some other things that deal with that, but we'll get to that in a second. Um, Rounding out the fighting characters, we do have 3 copies of Duri Earthwalker, who came out of, what is this, Temple of Lore. This guy almost, if you told me, if like I didn't know anything about this game, and you told me this guy came out in 4th edition for Sigurdur, I'd believe it, because he seems like he's a very, very good fit for him. You know, +10 attack, 17 AC. He's got Repost, Power Attack, and Defend, and when he uses a feat, he has a bonus equal to the highest level item he has equipped. Now, for the War Axes, that's only +2, so his total bonus to his feats is only +8. That's not very good. He also has 2 abilities. Order once per turn, target and stun a ready equipped item, Ready Duri. So you can stun the axe to ready him, but you wouldn't be able to use the spend order again because the item's stunned. He has the other order, once per turn, ready an unstunned equipped item. So ideally, you want to have 2 items on him with the War Axe. You have the axe, then something else. And that lets him, again do +13 strikes. He's got 4 hit points. His armor class is fairly good. It's not amazing. But, you know, yeah, very, very thematic character for Sigurdur. So again, just looking at those characters and comparing to the level 1s, it's going to take them far, far longer to actually provide any real value because they're starting so much further back, but they're much more durable and their attack mods are much better, and they have some interesting abilities. As far as the support stuff goes, again, you've got Tauren, you've got Mentor, who I think, again, are probably auto-includes for this. Instead of the salvages, we're actually running 2 copies of Stockpile. So, for when I was mentioning the tempo advantages, I mentioned how it kind of sucks that you have to play the axe, wait, and then swing. Stockpile has an ability, Nightfall. So as long as it's not the first turn, once per turn, after target dwarf in your army equips an item. If it is not the first turn, the target may perform an additional order after the current one. Now, this will get around that tempo problem. The reason I don't think this works in the other version of the deck is her spend order to return an item within 1 rank, that doesn't really do much in that deck. I guess you can use it to preserve your War Axes if you're sure your guys are going to die. But this is a card this is a wizard, it's not a cleric, so she can't cast Treason's Wages, and she's competing with all of the characters that I want to be throwing axes on. So, in this one, it's a little bit different because her spend order is actually, I think, pretty useful in this deck. And the reason for that is because we have so many higher level characters, you know, a bunch of level 3s and level 4s, and you need to get them to the front. This deck actually plays a good number of steeds. You've got a couple griffins, a couple chariots, a couple noble steeds, and a couple dark horses. So Stockpile can bounce these back to your hand, and then you can play them again and basically get double movement out of them, kind of like a quasi-riding effect. So that's why I think Stockpile works in this one. And again, you really want to get these guys up as quickly as you can. And the fact that these steeds are, you know, anywhere from level 4 to level 6, if Duri has one of these on, it makes his ability to use his feats quite a bit more reliable. So we have those. We have a couple just, you know, support cards that the fighters will be equipping. You got a Breastplate of Power and a Hember Sigil. You throw these on, and hopefully it gives your guys just a little bit more durability. In Breastplate of Power's case, it also adds to everybody's attack, which is kind of nice. For Sigurdur, we still got the Core's Banner because I think it's still good. But you also have a copy of Uthanak's Ring. Again, this is more movement because the dwarves are generally really slow. I'm kind of on the fence about this next one, Sandbox. So this is an item that you can spend. You equip it to a character. In this case, you're almost certainly giving it to Sigurdur. Before you make an initiative roll, you spend him and you get +5 to it. The important thing on this, I guess, is you can do this after you've seen what your hand is. So if you really want to win initiative and you don't have anything better in your hand to play, like you're not going to be spending Sigurdur for anything, you can spend and get that +5 and hopefully help you take the first action. And coincidentally, the other part of Sandbox is after you win initiative, destroy Sandbox, this fighter performs an order. So even if this is not on Sigurdur himself, although it's probably where it's going to go, say you gave this to a Duri, after you win initiative, you can potentially spend him if he's got an axe on, and then that's a free action you're getting, and Yeah, you can maybe get some value out of that. This I'm actually considering replacing because I actually made this deck kind of a while ago. I'm considering replacing this with I think it's called Angel's Bulwark, that shield that came out of the 20th anniversary set, because it's mostly in here for the initiative bonus. Again, you might throw this on somebody else, but I like winning initiative, so even +2 can I think add up more often than you might think. So this deck does still, as far as the actions go. Still running 3 copies of Treason's Wages. I only have 4 clerics to cast this. I've got the 2 walls that start in play. I've got Tauren, and I've got Mentor. That might seem like kind of a low cleric count for this, but this is nowhere near as important in this deck because the +2 attack, while it's nice, it's not the same as it is for the level 1s. This is like doubling the level 1 characters' like attack ability, their attack stat. The additional wound is still nice, and again, I think this is still good. But if I can't cast it, I don't think it matters as much because again, the fighters in this deck the quality is way better. So still 3 copies of Meet at the Inn and Back Alley Tavern. I think these are, you're almost always going to be able to play these in one way or another, whether you're, Meet at the Inn anyone can use, or, if Sigurdur is Back Alley Taverning to spend to draw a card in case he's got nothing better to do, or they're playing Draw 2 to get you 2. And then instead of Crunch Strategies, we're playing By Your Word instead, because Crunch Strategies, it really works better on low-level characters because you can ready more. Plus, they can't be stunned for Crunch Strategies, and this deck you might be stunning characters forward because they're starting so far back. By Your Word can ready stunned characters, so I think in this deck with this character build, it's probably the better choice. That's pretty much what I'm playing with him. Again, I think this is better. It's just, it didn't feel as fun. I like beating people up with level 1s. I hate Adorami, but I love playing level 1 characters. Some of the things I'm considering, Loyalty's Reward is one of those cards where I really should be playing this, and it just, every time I draw, I never have I don't even know what to say. I always draw, because I almost never play this by itself. Like in Robert, I'll play this, I'll play Commit the Reserves, and this always feels like it's not the thing I want to be doing, although it should be because it's giving me cards. I mean, I guess my other level 4s can play this. I also am kind of trying to figure out a way to work in Opal Gargoyle into this deck because this is ready, and pretty much every fighter who's going to be punching in this deck is a candidate for Opal Gargoyle. So it's taking up a character slot, so yeah. But I mean, there's probably some value there. One of the things in the future, I don't play a super large amount these days because I don't play online. And yeah, like we don't all get together very often. But one of the things I do want to try at some point with Sigurdur is these 2 builds for him. They're almost polar opposites of each other. Again, one of them is all level 1s. The other one is no level 1s except the starters. I kind of want to try a hybrid between the 2 and introduce also a couple other characters. Characters like Thatch, who could potentially, again, do extra wounds also, and his attack stat's not terrible. He's also level 2, so he gets to the front pretty quickly. Someone like Crux, who, as long as he's next to 2 dwarves, and he's got an axe on, he's doing 3 wounds per strike, which, again, is pretty awesome. Or something like Demand, where, he potentially can hit for 3 wounds. His power attack model, it'll probably be in play for that when you need it. So, yeah, I guess that's Sigurdur there. I'm sure that if I poked around and asked, the competitive community, they could probably come up with something way better than this, and they'll probably tell me I'm wrong about him sucking. I think he sucks, but I think he's a lot of fun, and in the end, that's what Warlord is about. So, yeah, that is going to conclude this episode. Hopefully I have a project kind of in the works right now for a collab with several other people. It's extremely ambitious. I don't know when I'm going to get around to actually recording it or editing it, because editing these can kind of suck sometimes, but whatever. But in the meantime, I do want to try to make more content and not have these huge blocks of me waiting for inspiration. So if anybody has any requests on anything that you think a casual old head like me might have some thoughts on, comment below and let me know. So thanks for checking this out, and I will catch you in the next video.